Well, we had the election on the weekend, and there was an interesting change of government that's come into play. So the Liberals lost quite a number of seats and are now in opposition. Joining us now is Mathias Cormann, who's a Liberal senator from WA, who's just going to give us a bit of an update of the election and what this may mean for the governing of Australia and the Liberal Party going forward. Welcome, Mathias.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's your first time on television. We were just talking about this before. Told him to relax, not get so nervous.
No, that's exactly right. Well, I'm sure you're very good in public as being in Parliament. So, but Mathias, you know, we were chatting earlier, and it was very clear that you've actually got a non-Skippy accent. So, you're originally from where?
Yep, like many Australians, I'm a migrant to Australia.
Okay.
I migrated here about 13 years ago from Belgium. So yeah, and sort of arriving in Australia, obviously a great country, this is a great state, and I was very keen to be part of making it a better place, so, and here I am.
So that's what edged you to get involved with the Liberal Party?
Yes, I became involved in the Liberal Party about 11, 12 years ago, and sort of one thing leads to another, and yeah, here I am. Ian Campbell retired earlier this year, and I was fortunate enough to be appointed into the casual vacancy in June. And the first challenge was to help achieve the re-election of the Howard government, but of course, sadly, that was not to be the case, even though we have performed very well here in Western Australia.
So why do you think that there's been a different result here in Western Australia than in the other states?
Well, I mean, I think that here in Western Australia we do have a very strong economy, and I think that people across Western Australia would have shared the view put forward by John Howard that, you know, the government's policies had a lot to do with it, particularly in industrial relations and you know, workplace reform. And I heard sort of one of the news stories here today about business now expressing concerns that, you know, what might happen sort of into the future. And I think that here in Western Australia, more than in other states, maybe there was an awareness of the risks that might have been associated with, you know, an incoming government that might be dominated by vested interests from a union movement. And I guess finally we've got you know, some very good candidates here in Western Australia. We run a very disciplined campaign. If you look at Michael Keenan in Stirling, he ran an absolutely magnificent campaign against a very strong challenge from Peter Tinley, who was also a very good candidate. Luke Simpkins in Cowan, and we're still very hopeful to also maybe pick up the seat of Swan with Steve Irons, who also run a very, very good campaign.
So you're a senator, and I know that part of the last term for the Liberal government was that they had control of both the lower and the upper house, and that enabled them to get certain laws through. And that was one of the things that the opposition, now current government, focused on as well, in that sort of control. How is the Liberals looking in the upper house now? Are we going to have that sort of balance of power where the Senate is able to balance out the lower house, or is the Liberals still going to have a majority, or the Labor going to have a majority? What's it look like?
Well, essentially, here in Western Australia, again, we did very well. We will have 3 senators from Western Australia, again, on behalf of the Liberal Party, and Michaelia Cash has been successful as the 3rd senator from Western Australia. Nationally, the first thing, I guess, to remember is that the Senate only changes over 1 July next year. So between now and 1 July next year, you know, the Liberal and National Party coalition will continue to have a majority in the Senate because Gary Humphries has been successful in the ACT, and so it's only the territory senators that change over at election time. Everybody else changes over in July. Now, what we believe at this point in time is that we will have lost a senator in South Australia and probably also in Tasmania. It's still too early to call in Victoria in terms of that 3rd Liberal senator, so I guess at the end of the day we'll be shy by 1 or 2 senators of a majority in our own right. So it'll be the Greens, Family First, or that new senator from South Australia who will be holding the balance of power. So it's for some interesting times, and certainly in the Senate I think that there will be a lot of you know, intense debates when the new government is putting forward its agenda.
So what do you think some of the challenges are that are coming towards Western Australia?
Well, I think, I mean, we have experienced very strong economic growth. I mean, it's a very exciting time in our lives, but I mean, there's a lot of challenges that come with that. I mean, there's a lot of talk about skills shortages, but in Western Australia, we're actually short of people, full stop. And like, if you walk down any street, you'll see signs everywhere, whether it is you know, white staff, whether it's bakers, whether it's architects, whether it's engineers, whether it's, and so we really have got a significant demand for people. But Related to that are a whole range of associated challenges around infrastructure, housing affordability. I mean, if you go into Karratha, the sort of rents that people have to pay there, because we might need more people, but we struggle to accommodate them. So there's a whole range of challenges. I think that if we want to continue to go for growth, if we want to continue to take Western Australia forward, we really have to make sure that we have a very comprehensive approach on enabling us to be able to accommodate that. Water, I think, is a significant challenge, not only in Western Australia but nationally, and I think that is something that we will have to focus on as a state. And you know, there's a whole range of, I mean, obviously the usual, you know, we need to make sure that people that leave school have an opportunity to have a job, and the job that they want. I mean, there's a whole range of stuff, but right now I think the key challenge probably is to have enough people in Western Australia to be able to continue to grow the economy in a sustainable fashion.
So
well,
they're obviously the things that you'll be wanting to focus on, that you're feeling most passionate about.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I guess from the Liberal Party's point of view, right now we have to rebuild and regenerate. That's nationally as well as here in Western Australia. And certainly, like with the good thing from a West Australian point of view, we will have 17 federal members of Parliament representing Western Australia, which is quite a sizable proportion of the overall number. I think somebody mentioned yesterday about 30% of federal Liberal parliamentarians nationally will be from Western Australia. So we will have a good opportunity to make the case from a West Australian point of view as to what is required. And of course, the most immediate challenge is for us to sort out the leadership and to you know, make a decision as to who we want to lead us forward and to sort of rebuild and regenerate the party. But certainly from a West Australian point of view, we will be very focused on getting our policy perspectives across in that context.
Well, Mathias, thank you very much for joining us to give us that overview of how things may pan out, or from where they're looking right now. We look forward to finding out how it does actually pan out, whether some of those challenges are met by the new government and also by the new balance of power in the Senate. So thanks a lot, Mathias.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank
it's great to be here.